Welcome to the Girl Dad Show.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. Super excited to have Brian on the show with me. Brian, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join me on the show.
I love the premise of the show. So excited to be here.
Yeah, I know we got the chance to catch up a little bit before the show. You're also a podcaster.
Also a podcaster. We are inching close to the magic 100 episodes.
Oh,
Our
nice.
podcast is about doing business in Latin America.
Really? What a very niche podcast. I love it.
Yeah,
We
very
should
neat. So yeah, people that listen to it have a very, a very specific
thing
need
that they're looking for.
to learn about what it's like
Yeah.
to set up shop in Argentina or Mexico, hire people in Colombia, things like that.
That is wild. We'll have to dig into that for sure, but and I'll tell you why in a minute. But before we jump in, why don't you introduce yourself and tell the listeners what you do for a living?
Yeah, sure. I have been an entrepreneur for 11 years. Grew up in the recruiting space, and then 11 years ago was exposed to Latin America and the talent out there. So I've made my focus across 3 different companies to connect talent from Latin America to U.S. companies in this world we call nearshoring. So it's all the same time zone as the U.S.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And that's what you're doing now.
That's what I'm doing now. The company that I'm the founder of is Plugg Technologies. So that's spelled with 2 G's, Plugg. And we've got about 100 people that are currently out on projects for U.S. companies. And we work with a lot of small to medium-sized companies that are maybe just beyond the DIY, hiring people on Fiverr and Upwork. And they want to really reach some of the top echelon talent that they might not know how to do otherwise.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love this premise, and I will say that the reason why I was alluding to the fact that I have a lot to double click on here is that I have been recently introduced to nearshoring, and I'm in love with my Colombian team.
Awesome.
And I joke around about how it's like, I guess it's kind of inappropriate to say this, but I'll say it anyways, because why not? I feel like I'm like racist because I love my Colombians so much. Like it's like a reverse racism, you know? Like I only want to hire Colombians now because they're so lively, they're so educated, they have such a robustness for life, and they work hard, they're giving, and they're just very earnest, you know, and they're very earnest people. And obviously there's good and bad people in all the nations and stuff, but I will say, generally speaking, if you can take out the outliers, the general culture of Colombians is incredible. And I'm in love with all of our team, and so we actually have 5 and soon to be 7 Colombians working for us in one of my companies. Awesome. Yeah, so
I think that's exactly what we try to do in our own business. So you're selling this world. These anecdotes are everything, because sometimes like old reputations in media can cloud what we think about Latin America. Colombia, way back in the day, was the land of Pablo Escobar.
Oh yeah.
And then we hear about like, wait, we just brought in some Apaches and captured Maduro in Venezuela.
Yeah.
We see Narcos on TV, on Netflix,
Yeah.
and we think this is what Latin America is.
Oh yeah.
And with everything, there's like some truth to it. But that's like a tiny percentage of the population, the people that you're working with. This is who we're working with too. The bright, industrious, scrappy, intelligent, creative people.
They are, and everyone that we've hired so far is, I mean, education-wise, way smarter than me. I'll tell you that. They all speak 3 languages. They're all certified. They're constantly going after more certifications, whether I ask them to or not. Like they're just hungry for knowledge and skills, and so. It's been a really great experience for me. Yeah. So that's really fun to know that you do that. We'll have to talk offline and learn how we can work together, because I'm literally like a convert. I didn't realize this thing existed, and then now I just can't. I only want to hire Colombians. Like that's like a problem, right? That's why I was joking around saying it's like reverse race. It's like a good racism, because I actually love a race so much that I'm like, man, this is the only people I want to work with forever.
What you just hit on though is kind of what has been like really interesting geography. Latin America is right in our backyard, but the world kind of passed it by from a outsourcing standpoint. It was like India and
the Philippines too, yeah.
and then Eastern Europe, and then Africa. Everyone's talking about Nigeria. And like, well, what about Latin America? It's like right there.
That's right.
I mean, nearshoring technically has been around for a couple of decades, but it's only really taken off since COVID.
Yeah.
When time zones have kind of been ingrained in everyone's mind.
Well, it matters a lot. I mean, I will tell you, time zones, it sounds small, but it's so convenient to have them in the same time zone. It's wonderful. Yeah, walk me through how you started this. I mean, this isn't your first business, I'm assuming, right?
Correct. Yeah. So about 11 years ago, I was a head of recruiting for a couple different tech startups in San Francisco, and really kind of wanted to try my own hand at being an entrepreneur, being a founder. I had an idea where San Francisco at the time was like the fintech capital. Everyone was building fintechs. Yeah. And the trend that I saw was finance guys or gals started these things. They had access to lots of capital, pretty good product vision. They knew their customer, their position, but they could really care less about how it was built, who built it, who built the actual tech side. So I saw that as an opportunity. And for my first ever real entrepreneurial experience, I raised $2 million. That felt like an enormous amount of money. And then the next day I realized I'm in San Francisco, can't really for that. I couldn't build an engineering team in San Francisco on $2 million.
No, yeah.
So I started looking around, and for a second, it was like the world was my oyster. Like I could put an engineering team anywhere. And I was looking at maybe Taiwan, sounded kind of cool. I thought India was too far away, not like as culturally compatible. Maybe Eastern Europe. People were telling me about Hungary and Romania. But I had done a solo backpacking trip a few years prior to Argentina. Just loved it. Tree-lined streets, cafes on every corner, the best steak in the world, the best wine. And you could just kind of like sit at these places like you're in Europe, just sit there for 4 hours and just be, you're not screen sucking on your phone. You could just kind of be. And I thought that was great, plus the time zone. So Argentina my wife and I didn't have any kids yet at the time, and we were looking for a little adventure. So I said, hey, we've got this funding. I want to build this business in Argentina. Let's go live there. So we put sales in San Francisco, but moved to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and just kind of got right in there and grew that first business to about 85 people, had an office. It's Argentina, so they eat a lot of meat. So the office had this giant grill on like the balcony area.
That's awesome.
So every Friday, we looked like cavemen. We'd come in with these big slabs of meat, and
that's awesome.
Hundreds of sausages, and just that's just what you do.
So smart. I love it.
Yeah, if you want a vegetable, there's chicken. Great place. Had a lot of fun. Of course, it's like any place. There's trade-offs, and it can be a complicated place to do business. And Argentina itself is like 160th ranked in the world in terms of doing, ease of doing business.
Oh, really?
There's like Singapore on one side and Hong Kong, and then on the other side of the world, you've got Argentina, where you're crossing your fingers a lot.
Wow.
But anyway, figured it out. 4 years into that business, we had our first child, our son. And these trips, and we were also living in Hawaii full time too. There is no easy way to fly from Hawaii to Argentina. And it means, I'm not going to fly for 20 hours to be there for 2 days. So it just really didn't make sense as a dad. I know this is a show about balancing entrepreneurship and fatherhood, and that was a big thing for me. Is I didn't want to be away. I didn't want to be that dad that was just away all the time. So I kind of found a way to make it all work, but that meant I exited that first business. I sold my shares, but decided that Latin America and nearshoring was what I wanted to do. Since I've built 2 other businesses, no investors, my own money, and that allows a lot more freedom and how you build it. And I can dive deep in all that stuff, but that was really the kind of the catalyst getting me to Latin America, and then the catalyst of like how I can make it all work from Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one piece that I'm missing from the story is you moved to Argentina with your wife, no kids, full time to kind of dive into this kind of experience, and then you built the business there with the sales team in San Francisco. And then when did Hawaii happen? I don't
Oh
understand how
yeah,
you lived. How did you live there full time and Argentina full time? I like that.
yeah,
That's a little.
yeah, yeah. So Argentina was for about a year,
Oh, got it. Okay.
and then, moved to Hawaii once we kind of got the team situated, and I was still traveling back there a lot. So without kids, no sweat. Sometimes my wife would even join.
Right.
We'd go there for a couple weeks. On the weekends, go to Mendoza, which is,
Mm-hmm.
if you've ever been to Napa and you've also been to Tahoe,
Mm-hmm.
this is like if the two had a baby, it'd be Mendoza. You've got
Cool.
the Whitecap Andes, you've got wine country, just
Yeah.
awesome, super
Very
sunny.
cool.
You've got Patagonia and the glaciers and all that. So we would take these little trips. 4 years later after we founded that, we were very much settled in Oahu, and just didn't want to travel anymore.
Nice. And then I have to ask, why Hawaii, and why are you settling down in Hawaii? What made that
Yeah,
decision?
yeah,
I love Hawaii just like everybody else, but I
yeah,
would be hard
yeah,
pressed to live there. I feel like it's definitely a big decision, you know?
yeah. If your business requires a lot of travel, it's tricky
It
because
is, yeah.
it's a 5-hour flight just to kind of get to the starting line, in
Yeah,
California.
that and the fact that they're constantly changing their flight options because different airlines have, they have to like figure out if they want to cover that line or not. And so you'll
Right.
have directs one season and then you'll have no directs the next season, and like it's crazy to plan for. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's tough. Yeah. So the travel part, if you don't have to travel that much, which I haven't really had to travel,
Oh,
like maybe
nice.
maybe a trip a year, for business.
Yeah.
So that's kind of made it a lot easier. And just as you're so happy with your Colombian team, I'm just so happy with all the people that I work with there. So they handle a lot of things.
Hmm.
I used to be really anxious, like because Hawaii is so far behind in time zone,
Yeah.
6 hours right now from New York. So if I had a client on the East Coast, I'm just like almost dreading waking up, because
Yeah.
I check my email, like, oh, was there an issue?
Yeah.
And everybody's like all angry, and then I'm kind of waking up into fires, like fighting fires. But I realized pretty quickly, maybe you've got this with your team, that they kind of handle it, like I would
Yeah.
I would see, just like every business, maybe there's an issue, and then I'd read about this email, but my team would be copied too, and they would already be like in a dialogue back and forth. They wouldn't have to wait for me to wake up. Like, what do I do? They just knew what to do. They
Hmm.
diagnosed the issue, proposed a solution, implemented the solution, and I'm like waking up to this.
Hmm.
Like, how awesome is this? Where I
Yeah.
woke up to a fire that was put out,
Yeah.
and I'm just like reading the whole sequence of events as I'm getting up.
Yeah.
So Hawaii hasn't been that really negative of a factor in running the business, and why we chose it. That year we were in Argentina, we got rid of our permanent apartment in San Francisco,
Hmm.
so we were effectively like untethered to anything, and we thought, we could just settle anywhere. Where do you want to be? And we picked
Yeah.
Hawaii. There's trade-offs. I mean, it's as expensive as expensive gets, but
Yeah.
we made it work.
That's awesome. And then did you have so is your son born in Argentina or Hawaii or where?
Hawaii, yeah, yeah. Son was
Very
born in
cool.
Hawaii, and then we have a little girl who's 14 months apart that we actually fostered, and
Oh,
then later,
cool. Oh, that's amazing. I love that. What made you do fostering?
yeah, we were at church, and early 2020, one of the speakers, or like directors from one of the foster nonprofits in Oahu,
Mm.
came to speak, and they're sharing, all the stories about, it's rough, the kids in foster care, it's rough experiences they go through, the abuse, the neglect, the
Mm.
drugs, the sex trafficking. Just it's a scary place. And there's 440,000 foster kids in the U.S. today. There's at least a
Oh,
couple thousand in
wow.
Oahu, and
Jeez.
so after the speaker spoke, my wife and I just kind of looked at each other like, we should do this.
Mm,
We have the time, we have the resources. If we don't do it, who's gonna do it? Kind of a thing.
mm-hmm.
We didn't want to be that couple that was like somebody should do something about this.
Yeah.
We wanted to be the somebodies.
Yeah.
So we registered as foster parents, and it was right during COVID, so it took a little longer, but about 7-8 months of kind of training, fingerprinting,
Oh,
doing the stuff.
wow. I've never actually heard about the process. So it's actually pretty extensive. It's a 7-8 month process with training and certifications.
That's right, yeah. And
Yeah.
you get licensed. Now, what people might not know is the majority of foster parents are actually relatives. So like
Mm,
grandma or grandpa, aunt or uncle, kind of taken. Fostering is stressful because it's meant to be temporary. You're a safe oasis for the child while usually the birth parents are getting their acts together, right?
mm.
And it's a delicate thing because there were certainly some days where I was, resentful, about like we've got this little girl that's screaming all the time from drug withdrawal, right?
Mm.
And had no prenatal care and was found in a boarded up meth house. The mom was in and out of prison, but like she still had all these rights, to visitation, and we kind of had to drop everything when she came to her senses and was sober. So all that is like really taxing and draining.
Emotionally, yeah.
Yeah, physically too. We didn't get a lot of sleep for a while.
Wow.
So uh, and all this is to hopefully inspire those that are listening to, if you've got the time, resources, you can be a safe oasis to do it, but not sugarcoat it. It's also rough. And for us, 2 years into the process, we were kind of touch and go. Like, is the birth mom going to try to get her child back or not? And after a lot of court check-ins, social worker check-ins, all that, we eventually were able to adopt her.
That's wild. Wow. What a great story. And I'm assuming they're older and since this all
Yeah,
happened, right?
yeah. So the
Okay.
kids are 5 and 6 today, but after the summer they'll be 6 and 7.
Wow, that's an incredible story. And then what does your son think about the whole situation?
Yeah, I don't think he knows otherwise because he
Yeah,
was, you know, just
so
over a
young.
year. Yeah, just
Yeah.
over a year, and
So he just
just
grew up with it. Yeah, he just thinks it's
yeah,
his sister. Yeah, that's great.
yeah. This little, they don't look alike, right? It's cute, how they fight and love just like brother and sister.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And then to kind of move into this other topic of the same coin, what is your wife's experience with the whole situation? What does she think about the fostering experience?
Yeah, when we see little babies now, we're like,
Mm.
we should foster again. We,
He got the baby
you,
bug. Yeah.
yeah, you kind of miss the. I don't think we'll have any more biological kids, but
Yeah.
you kind of miss that element. And also for those that might be listening that are like, wow, that's a big commitment. There's something called respite care, and as I just shared, it's a pretty taxing thing to be a foster parent, but you can relieve a foster parent for like a night, give them a chance to have a date night, relieve them for the weekend,
Wow.
take the kids for the weekend. Like, you kind of dip your toe in, you make a huge impact, you let everyone recharge their batteries, and
Mm.
that's the way to do it. My wife probably had it more taxing than me because uh, we also had a surgery. Our little girl had a surgery throughout it, and there was a lot of it was a hip surgery. So baby with a hard cast around her hip, um,
Wow.
you know, pretty immobile, and she was there in the hospital. She's there 2 o'clock in the morning to you know
Yeah.
change a diaper inside of a hard cast. It's a lot. She earned her stripes, in that. But I think we look back, like anything that's worth it. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
But it was hard. So that we don't just look at it as like pure nostalgia, like, oh, that was such a great.
Yeah.
We lost a lot of sleep in 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, people lose sleep, period, at the end when you have young kids, but you guys lost a lot of sleep.
Yeah,
I mean, even more so than the average parent. That's an incredible story, and thank you so much for sharing. I've always been curious, to be honest with you. I've just never found the time to research it, and I appreciate you sharing it because I will say that, like, for me, it does seem like it's a lot, right? It seems like it's a lot of emotional and mental and kind of strain, to do this, and then the risk factor. That's kind of what makes me worried about doing it. Is just like, like what happens, if, like, do they go, because foster doesn't necessarily mean you adopt. Foster sometimes means that they go back to the parent, and that, I don't know if I could handle that emotional tax. Like, I would get so I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty tough guy, but I get pretty emotional about these things,
Yeah,
and even just like thinking about it makes me emotional, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do that.
yeah. A lot of people share that concern. They'll think, well, I'll get attached, I'll fall in love, and you will, you should, but maybe 3 months, 4 months, and then they move on. But on the other side, the alternative is a child doesn't have a safe spot for 3 or 4 months. The impact you could have in those 3 or 4 months is just monumental, and making them feel secure.
Yeah. Such a powerful story, man. And I definitely want to pick your brain now on two things after the show. I gotta learn about this as well too. I've actually been very curious. It's funny because I'm very curious about this, and even just adopting, right? I've actually been very curious about it because
Yeah,
we're not gonna have any more biological kids either. We're kind of past the safe age to do
yeah,
that, and my desire for kids is still very, very high. Like, I
yeah.
I want I want I want like as many as I possibly can have. I would take 20 of them if I could. I just love being a dad so much. It's so
Totally,
fun.
totally.
So, I mean, obviously that's a ridiculous number, and I'm saying it just to be kind of funny too. But part of me, like, wants that kind of bountifulness of kids.
Yeah,
I just love it. I love being a dad. It's like something that I really enjoy, and so there's not many other options if you start thinking down the road of, like, how can you do this, and so it's very interesting to have you on the show, be able to ask you these questions. So
yeah,
it's very cool. Talk to me about the business. So, what was the business like while you were doing this? Because this is not an easy feat in itself. And you kind of said that
yeah.
your wife was taking the brunt of it, but I'm assuming that you also were running a business or building a business too,
That's
then,
right.
right?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think sometimes I like when I look back to that there was like you're not given things that you can't handle.
Mm-hmm.
And as like one part of my life was really hard. With
Mm-hmm.
the fostering, business was on easy mode.
Wow.
For like the whole time we were fostering. I had a like an in the middle business. So there's three nearshoring companies that I've had. The first one with the fintech, the one today I'll talk more about, but the one in the middle was what's called recruitment process outsourcing. So we were in effect leasing recruiters to venture funded tech companies
Mm-hmm.
that were going through a hiring burst. A perfect example, if people are listening and they're kind of familiar with the VC world, the 2020, 21, 22 was the world of SaaS, software as a service companies that would raise a ton of money and they would have to hire a lot of people.
Right.
And everyone just had like unlimited amounts of money for recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
And they realized that they needed a lot of recruiters to do it. So, for example, a company might raise $50 million. They've got to hire, 40 engineers in 6 months, and that's a lot. You got to source a
Yeah.
lot of people, talk to a lot of people. You're not hiring everybody, so there's a hiring bar.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity was a real big thing back then too. So there's
Yep.
a lot of effort, and we would, do project-based recruiting. So we generally had about 20 customers at a given time,
Mm-hmm.
and we would place them at these companies, and we weren't paid on the placements they made. We were billing on the recruiter time.
Wow. So you're like
So
a
we
staffing. Yeah, that's awesome.
so we had
That's
about
a
six.
very, yeah.
Yeah. So we had about 60 recruiters on billing, and they all billed 40 hours a week, and we were invoicing no matter what. And I didn't really have to manage them. The customer would kind of manage the recruiters.
Yeah.
So I had more money coming in than I knew what to do with, and I didn't really have to work that much. It was like 5-10 hours a week, just
Yeah.
kind of cash coming in.
Yeah. You timed the market perfectly for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like demand, pent up demand, and I want to give myself a little credit because in 2020 that market was bleak. Nobody was hiring for a few months during COVID, and companies that were in competitors of mine closed up shop.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't stay open, with their projects. So I kept the business, instead of closing. I could have gone the W-2 route, but I wanted to bet on myself, and that paid off. It didn't last forever.
Yeah.
The VC market eventually collapsed, mid
Yeah.
late 2022.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the ramifications over the last year and a half. Like I mean, even VCs themselves are actually going belly up right now. It's kind
That's
of funny
right.
to see
Yeah.
that.
So there was just a 2-year period though where like I didn't have to worry about
Yeah,
money, and
it was a great time.
so
Yeah, it was a great
I could
time for me too.
my
Yeah, it
family.
was unbelievable. Yeah, yeah, there weren't enough bodies to throw at the problems. I mean, it was
Yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah, it was a great time to
Yeah.
be a
Yeah.
consultant.
It
Yeah.
wasn't like we weren't throwing AI at it. We were throwing money.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was a great 2 years for me too. I mean, it was incredible. That's awesome. So that was when that happened, and you were able to
Yeah.
kind of do this with that. Oh, that's fantastic. And so, why did you say that your wife took the brunt of it then? Because it sounds like you were also very much so a part of it.
Yeah, I was involved, for sure, and I love being a dad, and we had a
Yeah,
double stroller, and I would,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
pick up
Heck
the
yeah,
stroller rocks all the time, and
yeah,
taking them to the park and the pool and the water park.
yeah,
No, that was awesome. But I think with the hip surgery that she had, there was a 3 or 4
yeah.
month recovery time, and our little girl was in this hard cast, just kind of like propped up in front of the TV, and
Hmm.
and she was just learning how to talk too, so she'd say like Elmo, and so we'd like run and, change the channel to Elmo, or Minnie, change the channel to Disney, or
Yeah.
like I'm hungry, so we're just kind of like at her beck and call, and or at nighttime if she's screaming because the cast is uncomfortable, it's
Yeah.
usually
Poor
my wife
thing.
that stepped up on that.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So she was just more actively doing it, not
That's right.
necessarily that. Yeah. Okay. Got it. You weren't like so like preoccupied with work that you couldn't. It was just that she got up to do it more often than you did. Okay. Now I understand what you mean. All right. That's great. Well, that's awesome to hear that. That's good that the business was doing that. And so, kind of double clicking into the business. So, what is your goal for business now? So, what's your business criteria? What's your success criteria for business in the next chapter of your life?
Yeah, so there's really two different things that I'm doing. The first is all in on nearshoring, just like we talked about. So
Right.
we're about 100 people that we've got build out today, and we just keep adding and adding. I have a full-time president for that business who runs the
Mm.
day-to-day really, really well. He's based in Atlanta. And then, for me, it's kind of the ancillary stuff around the business, podcasting, getting out there, marketing, positioning, strategy, finance, capital allocation, all that. And then the other thing that I've gotten into the last couple of years is this world of boring businesses.
Mm.
So originally I was on the track of SBA loans, you fully buy something.
Hmm.
I had a couple hiccups in that where, I realized with as much due diligence as possible, and these are, sub-$1 million companies. So
Hmm.
there's all sorts of wild west stuff, with the financials and owner trust Costco and, under
Yeah.
the table stuff.
Funny math. Yeah.
And then, the owners are usually the drivers of the company. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
as much as you'd love to like there's a whole management team in place, that's just not at that size company. So you're betting a lot, you're taking these 10-year SBA loans, and
Hmm.
in my point in life, I've got assets on the tables.
Hmm.
You're putting liens on your house for, you're crossing your fingers that you've really done some diligence, hire the right operator, clients don't disappear. Long story short, I didn't go through with any of them, but I got close on several.
Nice.
But I decided that I would do a different model, which I've done 2 deals so far, and I want to do one every year. It's called, I guess the category I've created is Micro P Home Services in Hawaii.
Oh, nice. That's fun.
So I find little home services companies with great entrepreneurial operators that
Hmm.
love what they do. They're usually hand to mouth in terms of cash flow. So it's like hard for them to even say take on a property management company as a client because they'll pay net 30, net 40, and they just don't have the cash to float. So they might not even have a website or Yelp. They need to be paid in cash or paper checks. So, I come in and give them some capital, so they can float, organize payroll, take digital payments, website, digital infrastructure, all that
Nice.
stuff.
Yeah.
And but they keep doing what they're doing. So we've got a cleaning company, locksmith company,
Which one? A cleaning company and a what?
locksmith.
A locksmith company. Great. Yeah, those are good ones. Yeah.
Cleaning and locksmith, and the operators are fantastic. I kind of like, I don't have to be in the business. I've yet to change a lock or
Mm-hmm.
clean a countertop.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of get a fixed distribution, really nice cash on cash return. And my hope is to do a deal like this every year.
Mm-hmm.
And in 10 years, we just kind of have a nice steady stack of a portfolio. But I'm not buying the whole business. That operator still has significant equity. Grow it together, and hopefully they have an asset that they can look at as retirement income too.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're on the same path. So for whatever it's worth. Yeah. So I just call it a holdco or portfolio building.
Yeah,
I'm on I own 14 operating businesses.
that's amazing. I would
I
love to hear more about that.
yeah, I build about five a year. So I build, buy, and invest at five a year, and I do the same thing. So I try to find function experts or people that are passionate about stuff, and then I either give them the capital and the operational expertise to scale it, or I build it from scratch, and
Wow.
and I teach them how to build it from scratch using my business knowledge, and then I give them the capital to do it. Yeah, and then so that's the kind of how I do it. So yeah, I've been doing this for about 4 years, and this is my last year that I'm going to go hard, and then I'll do similar to you, like one a year. But I'm trying to get to 20 in 5 years. That's the goal. Yeah.
That's incredible. Are they all in your? And I didn't ask where you lived. Are they all where you live?
Yeah, so I'm originally from San Francisco. So I was born in Oakland and I lived in the Bay Area. And then I moved to Austin, Texas 6 years ago. And so now I live in North Austin and they're all over the place. But I do have a core group of home service businesses that I own here in Austin. So I'm also in home service. I own a pool cleaning company. I just got into a glass company. I just bought a blinds company. I'm trying to get into a couple of other verticals. So I have like the same thing with private equity, right? The benefit of private equity is that, there's the centralization of back office, right? So you can reduce the cost and increase the margin by 5 or 10% by centralizing back office functions within the portfolio. But there's a second thing that private equity does that's really interesting too, is like not the roll ups, but the platform building. So
Right.
if you get all of these home services together, then you just share the email list with these other ones, and then they're able to take the same amount of money and rotate it between their portfolio 7 or 8 times, and then it grows the entire system. And that's a really great move from these private equity guys, and they're able to build these platforms instead of doing roll ups, which is great too, but that's
Yeah.
only like centralizing operational costs. You're getting minimal amount of margins out of it. Instead of squeezing margins out by doing this platform play, you're actually
Yeah.
growing the whole ecosystem, and that's actually pretty interesting to me. And so I'm trying to do the same thing, but in my own little ecosystem of North
Yeah.
Austin.
No, I think that's so awesome. Yeah. Like for me, when I get a property management company or like a realtor that's like,
Yeah,
hey, I need a locksmith. Oh, I also need a cleaner. And it's like,
yeah,
wow, like
I know, it's awesome.
the same customer is using both. Yeah. So I'm like, what else do you need? A landscaper, a handyman?
Exactly. I love that too. That's exactly how I feel about it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, how can I sell you everything you need? And like, it just be like, and just like, I don't know, it'd be so fun. And then I actually think about like how many Californians and New Yorkers have moved here and just how little like these coastal livers, and I'm one of them, by the way, so I'm talking crap about them being one of them, right? How little these coastal livers like have no idea how to manage a house.
Yeah.
Like we're like oblivious. Like we have no idea how to do anything. Like I get my man card stolen by my neighbors every single week because they're like, "What do you mean you don't know how to like dig a hole?" And I'm like, I don't know. There's like limestone. What is this thing? Like it's just like the funniest things I don't know how to do. And knowing this and knowing how many of them are moving here, I'm just like, man. If I moved here 5 years ago and someone told me I could pay $1,500 a month and they'll just take care of everything in my house, I would have done it. And so like I'm just thinking about all these new people coming in going, here's all the things that I learned about owning a home in Texas, and here's all the things that you need to understand, and if you don't want to deal with it, just give me $1,500 a month and I'll literally take care of everything. I'll
That's
take care of
so
your roof, I'll take care of your pool, I'll take care of your pests, I'll take care of your fence, I'll take care of your HVAC. Like just literally tell me what you want. That's kind of my end goal, right? I think it'd be so
that's so
funny.
awesome, man.
Just put all these Californians on subscription services for their houses.
Yeah.
Anyways,
That's
sorry for digressing, but
no,
I love that you're on that track, man. We have
I
a
like
lot to talk about.
I really enjoy this. Are you more often than not finding like existing businesses with operators and where do they usually get stuck?
Yeah, so for me, I try to buy, same as you. I try to do the SBA and buy, but the numbers are they're too messy. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie, like anything with less than a million NIBDA is like a crapshoot.
yeah,
And like it's just kind of like I don't really trust it to be honest with you. And then going back to what you said earlier, it's like a key man risk, right? Because most of these businesses that are sub 5 million are basically the owner driving 90% of the business. And so once they leave, I'm like, well, now I'm kind of screwed because they didn't really build an operating system. They just
right.
drove a really great business themselves. And so, and then they were starting to get overpriced. I don't know if you remember in 2020, 2022, PE they didn't have enough there was so much capital. There's so
Yeah,
much money getting
like
flooded into the market that,
zoning, electrical,
yeah,
HVAC.
I
Yeah,
know. And so like the valuations are getting like 8 to 13x EBITDA. And I'm like, I'd have to work 9 years before I made money off of that valuation. Like it would be crazy before I got my money back and the loan would eat me alive. And so
yeah,
it just didn't make sense. And so the first couple of years, I actually just realized that I could build it for cheaper.
right.
Because I mean, the same problem you're probably having is that there's a lot of customers, there's not enough workers.
Yeah, yeah,
It,
yeah. Staffing's always tricky. Yeah,
That's right. And so it's like if you learn how to do, operational, you have good operational skills and you have good staffing
yeah,
skills because that's what you do for a living and people management
right.
skills. And I have good operations and finance skills. And so, we're able to leverage that as our benefit because right now people always talk to me because they find out that I build all these businesses. And all my tech friends are always trying to sell me on marketing and sales AI tools. And I'm like, you think customers are problems? We have a wait list for customers. I need money, I need trucks, I need people. Like I don't need customers. We have so many customers. We can't satiate the need of customers. When's the last time you had a good service provider? That's my number one question. They're like, you're right. It's been a long time since I've actually had someone that's reliable and consistent. I'm like, that's my point. So if you could provide consistent service right now, you will literally dominate whatever industry you want to be in my opinion, in any part of the country, in any
Yeah.
part of the country. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think to that point, what I realized quickly is we just had to make like a few tweaks, and we're
Mm.
like both businesses are in the top 5% of our market.
Yeah. That's what, yeah. So my pool cleaning company, everyone's like, oh, how'd you grow it so fast? I'm like, you're not going to believe it, but we show up on time, we
Yeah,
take pictures of what we do, and we thank the customer as we leaving. And
yeah,
they're like, what else? And I'm like, that's all we do. Like,
yeah,
we're not doing anything more than just common courtesy.
yeah,
But you literally can't find common courtesy, and we're like head and shoulders above everybody else. It's
100%. Yeah,
it's so
totally.
funny, isn't it? Yeah. All right, let me get back to you. Sorry, because this could go on forever. We're gonna
Yeah,
have a separate call for sure. Because now we got to talk about nearshoring. We got to talk about fostering, and now we got to talk about our micro PE,
micro
whatever you call it, or what I call it. I call it holding co. But yeah, we'll figure
yeah,
this
yeah,
out. Yeah.
yeah. Whatever. It's fun.
I feel like that episode of Step Brothers, and we're like, do we just become best friends? So funny.
Can we
Let
go
me
give away the wine mixer?
exactly. Let me get us back on track because we could go on for hours. Okay, now I kind of know what your goals are for the next part of your business success journey here. Let's talk about parenting. So as you think about the next 5 or even 10 years of your dad life, what are your goals? What does success look like for you as a dad?
Yeah. One thing we're playing the idea around of, it would be a huge leap for us, but we're kind of
Hmm.
excited. So, my wife grew up as an expat, like a third culture kid. So she grew up in Korea and Japan because her dad
No
was
way.
that. And then we met in California. Um, and then, we had all this travel, living in Argentina. Also did an MBA in Singapore.
No
So
way. Wow,
our
you
life
guys are really traveled. Wow.
Yeah, so we're pretty well traveled, and we want to give our kids that experience.
Oh, I love that.
So we're playing around the idea of maybe like a year or two as doing like world schooling and just like you know
So cool. They
spend
have
like
services for this,
yeah
actually.
yeah there's a couple companies. So maybe like the first trip we do it with a cohort and kind of learn how to do
Yeah,
it.
I get targeted by their ads all the time.
Yeah, because we're not a homeschool family, so there'd be like a big learning curve and like how do we put all this
Yeah,
together? I think it would be so cool to do like
that is cool.
six
That is
months
cool.
in 6 months in Bologna, Italy,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
and
Oh, I love that, man.
Doing it. And I also think with like young kids, my wife and I still have things to work out in this topic, but I feel like young kids can probably just be in school like 3 hours a day, and like the rest they can, like, boys
Yeah.
have a lot of like testosterone. They just need to run around,
Yeah.
um, I think like all this ADHD diagnosis and like
Yeah.
Ritalin, like all this is just because we're expecting young kids to sit in a chair for 8 hours.
Absolutely.
But I think
Absolutely.
like let them run free, see the world.
Yeah.
Uh, that would be my dream. There's a lot I think that needs to come together to make it happen.
Yeah.
But that's my vision.
Those beautiful aspirations. Those are great success criteria. I love that. I'm actually, I never articulated it like that, but I'm very similar in the sentiment of like getting them experience and exploration. That's very, very interesting. I love that. We did just become best friends. This is an awesome episode. All right, Brian, let me move us into my rapid fire questions so that I can get you on your way here because I know you're busy as just as I am. So, one piece of advice that you have for parents or soon to be parents.
Best advice I got was from one of my best friends right before my son was born. He gave me a call, and we're like close, so he just calls me my last name. He's like, Samson, I got to tell you something. I'm like, what? Everyone's gonna tell you that like fatherhood is the greatest thing in the world, and it is, but like it's really hard, and
Yeah.
like no one's gonna tell you that, so I am.
Nice.
And I thought that was really important, because the first couple months, like if your baby's screaming or like you're not sleeping, and it's just rough.
Yeah.
You think there's something wrong with you. Like,
Hmm.
how come I'm not enjoying this? So by having that expectation that like, hey, it's hard too.
Yeah.
It's great, but it's hard.
Yeah.
That gave me this like reassurance that I was everything was okay.
Yeah. And you weren't a horrible person. I know exactly what you're talking about. That is actually really sage advice. I like your best friend. That's a good guy. Yeah. Yeah. One thing that you were surprised about yourself after becoming a parent.
In a good way, I think I'm learning to let the kids be their own people. And what I mean by
Nice.
that is I grew up in the Midwest, like baseball, wiffle ball backyards,
Nice.
basketball, tag football. But like my son is into karate and Cub
Nice.
Scouts and robotics, like totally different interest. But like I'm loving it. Like I'm learning. We were at his karate tournament last weekend, and totally different world to how
Hmm.
I grew up, and it was awesome. Like just getting into their interest is really fun.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. I'm not into sports at all, and my oldest is super into sports, and so
Yeah,
I'm like now learning about how to play basketball, the rules of soccer, like I'm like researching it and I'm geeking out. So I totally love that. That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Do you have a favorite book or podcast you can share?
I really enjoy. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I
Do
listen
you?
to
I do too. Yeah,
um,
I'm like a podcast junkie. Yeah, it's a problem.
yeah. Um, but I think for entrepreneurs, you can't go wrong with My First Million. That's always a
That's a
fun.
good one. Yeah, that's a really fun one. Yeah, that's a great one. And then when you're not being a super dad and also entertaining really unique experiences like fostering and doing, I guess, social service in a causality way, in a cause way, and also for yourself, but and also building the next big business and generating revenue in unique and fun ways. What do you do for fun? What are your downtime activities?
Uh, as cheesy as it might sound, I just love spending time with my family.
Nice.
On weekends there's like a little lagoon we go to with kayaks and
It's
stand-up
awesome.
paddle boards, and like just throwing the kids on there and hearing
It's
their
awesome.
giggles. I mean, that's the best.
That's great, man. I love that. And it's a great place to be in Hawaii. Jeez Louise. Man, you can just go anywhere and it's just like beautiful and fun, right? There's like so many like natural activities. Yeah.
No
Good for
complaint.
you. Ryan, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your day to come and talk to me on the show and just share a little bit about your perspective and experience.
I'm so glad I did, fellow stepbrother here.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about, so I'll definitely be staying in touch with you, and we'll schedule some time to kind of dig in deep on all three of those things because
Please,
all three
please,
of those topics I'm very interested in, and it sounds like you have very similar interests. So we have a lot of notes to share, and we can help each other on all of them.
100%. Love it.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. You too.
Talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the girl that show.